Welcome back, guys, to Unit 8, Notes 3. Today we're going to be multiplying radical expressions. Our learning target today is I can simplify radical expressions involving multiplication. So we looked at yesterday simplifying them, we looked at adding and subtracting them, and so now we're going to be multiplying them. So here's our 3 steps to multiplying radical expressions. You're going to multiply the outside of the radical, you're going to multiply underneath the radical, and then you're going to simplify the remaining expression. So pretty basic. Make sure you pause to get those 3 down. So let's go ahead and look at our first example. Our first example, we see we have nothing outside of the radical sign, so we don't have anything to multiply there. And now we're going to multiply the underneath. 2 times 10 gives, or excuse me, 2 times 5 gives me the square root of 10. Well, can we simplify 10? 10 only breaks down into, think of our prime factorization, 2 and 5, which is where it came from. So we have simplified our first expression. Let's go ahead and look at 2 here. 2, we do have things on the outside, so we're going to take the 4 times 6. 4 times 6 gives us 24. Now we're going to multiply our underneath portions. 3 times 2. 3 times 2 is 6. Think about prime factorization. 6 only breaks into 2 and 3, so we can't simplify any further. So those 2 are some very basic examples for us to start with. All right, look here at number 3. Number 3, we're going to be multiplying 3 parts. And multiplying 3 parts doesn't change, is no different than when we multiply 2 parts. We're still going to multiply the outsides. Here's a 2. Think about this as a 1 and 4. 2 times 1 times 4, we have 8. Now we're going to multiply our underneath portions. We have 3 times 2 times 3. 3 times 2 gives me 6. 6 times 2, or 6 times 3 is going to give us 18. So we have 18 underneath. So let's go ahead and think about how 18 breaks down. Well, we can break it into 2 and 9. 2's prime. 9 breaks into 3 and 3. So really, now we can look at this as 8 square root of 2 times 3 times 3. Look for any pairs we might have. We have a pair of 3's. So remember, really 3 times 3 is 9. We're taking the square root of 9. That's a 3. So we're going to pull that 3 out. So now we have 8 times 3 times the square root of 2. Remember, it goes away. 8 times 3 gives us 24. Square root of 2. Okay, let's go ahead and look at 4. 4, we're going to take our outsides and multiply them. 6 times 4, that's going to give us negative 24. All right, 5 times 15 is going to give us 75. Think of our prime factorization with 75. 3 times 25, and we break to 5, and 5. All right, so negative 24. Now we're going to put those numbers underneath. 3 times 5 times 5, we're looking for pairs. We're going to pull out one of those 5's, and we leave the 3 underneath. Negative 24 times 5 gives us a negative 120 square root of 3. So really, multiplying radical expressions isn't terribly difficult. It's not anything that we haven't learned before. We're just taking and adding our prime factorization into our multiplication skills. Now let's throw in some variables. Variables aren't going to change anything we do. We still multiply anything outside our square root. So in number 5, we have nothing. Then we're going to go ahead and multiply underneath. 20 times 6 is going to give us 120. And then x squared and x gives us x cubed. All right, take 120. Let's break it into 10 and 12, 2 and 5. Let's do 2 and 6, 2 and 3. All right, so we are going to take and put our factors all underneath. We're going to do our lowest ones, our 3, our 5, and then x cubed. Remember, that's x 3 times. There we go. Okay, circle any pairs. We have a pair and a pair. So we're going to take 2x and put it on the outside. Now just multiply the numbers left underneath. 2 times 3 times 5, we get, yep, 30. Good job. And then our x. All right, let's try number 6 together then. 6, we have nothing in front of our first fraction, so we're going to think of it as 1. 1 times 4 gives us 4. All right, 18 times 3. So go ahead and let's do 18 times 3. We're going to 54. All right, and then we end up with a to the 4th. Go ahead and we're going to do our prime factorization with 54. So we could do 2 and 27. And 27 is going to break us down into 3 and 9. 9 breaks into 3 and 3. All right, let's put all those underneath. Still tag along your 4. Now we're going to have 2 and then 3 3s. And then a to the 4th, remember, is 4 a's. All right, circle any pairs, whether it's a variable or a number. So we have 4 times 3. That comes from there. 2 times 3 is going to leave us with 6. Oops, I forgot to put my variables out in front. We have 2 a's. All right, now we can put our 6. So let's simplify the front. We get 12 a squared, square root of 6. How's it going so far, guys? Hopefully it's going all right for you. So that was just doing some basic multiplication. Now we're going to throw in some binomials. Remember, a binomial is something that has 2 terms. So if we have something that's outside of those parentheses, we are going to distribute it in. Now it gets distributed into both terms. So the first term, square root of 3 times square root of 5. The 3 and the 5 are both underneath. So they get multiplied to give us square root of 15. Now look at the next part. The 4 is not under a square root, but the 3 is. So then the 4 is going to stay outside the square root, and the 3 goes underneath. All right, so anything we can simplify here. 15 we can't break down. 3 we can't break down. So we're going to leave it like that. Notice you only multiply things that are underneath the square root with something else that's under the square root. So looking at 8, let's multiply and distribute. We're distributing this whole term into both of those. So think about this. Negative 3 square root of 3 and 2. Well, what's not underneath the square root? Negative 3 and 2. So it's going to give us negative 6. And then the square root of 3, because 2 didn't have a square root with it. In the next term, in our term here, we have nothing that's in front of the square root. So then negative 3 is times that 1. Think that's a 1 there. All right, then underneath our square root, we get 3 times 6, which gives us 18. All right, looking at our first term, we can't simplify square root of 3, so that stays as is. But 18, we can do our prime factorization. 2 and 9, 3, 3. All right, so we're thinking negative 3 square root of 2 times 3 times 3. We have a pair, so we have negative 6 square root of 3 minus, here's our 3 here, times this 3 from there, 2. All right, so negative 6 square root of 3 minus 9 square root of 2. Now, some of you might see, oh, I can do that step without writing it down, and that's fine if you want to do that. I have no problem with that, but I'm going to show you every step so we all make sure we have an understanding. So I want you guys to go ahead and try numbers 9 and 10 for me, and then we'll do 11 and 12 in class. So try out 9 and 10. It's going to be very similar to the 2 we just did. And then, let's see here, where'd they go? 11 and 12 we'll do together in class. See you guys then.